I think I accidentally shut this off. So, okay guys, I may have, I've been talking for the last 20 minutes. And if you're online, I apologize for that, but I'm just now going to be talking about organizational capacity, which is step 7. This is taken straight out of your books. As you move through and you consider and take a look at it, all of these things that we're looking at, whether it's the business model, whether it's the plan, now we're looking at now we're going to be looking at capacity as far as the organization is concerned. It only takes one element to be totally out of line for you to say, stop, we need to deal with this first. So I'm going to be going through the 8 elements that they list in the book. These are the very same elements that when I have been involved with self-analysis with organizations, they have looked at each element to a very great degree. My personal experience is it does help to go through and do a self-study. You learn a lot about your organization, but it's usually quite overwhelming when you do so. In your case, look and see if a specific element has aspects to it that you need to be aware of or focus on. Being somewhat aware of helps, but sometimes you really need to focus on it because it's such a stark weakness or a stark strength that if it's a weakness, you may need to focus on it initially. If it's a real strength, it is something that you can use as a resource as you go through, as you do your analysis for change. For instance, human resources. What do I mean by human resources, Willie?
People that do the hiring, I know that.
The Human Resources Office does the hiring, yes?
You have like harassment and stuff like that, they deal with that stuff too.
Okay. The Office of Human Resources deals with the personnel and the capacity of that personnel. So, but in this case, we're looking at the staff and the resources they bring to the organization. And I'll be giving, I forgot, I'm doing an overview first. Organizational structure and culture is another one. Financial management, resource and business development, external communications, information technology, facilities and equipment, and planning and evaluation. And today I'll probably just go through human resources and organizational structure and culture. And on Wednesday, I will go over each one. As we go over it, you've looked closely enough at your organization so you can do a little bit of an analysis of, okay, what's here that I need to consider that relates to my project. So, first, and I had trouble getting it to fade in, fade out, so I just gave up. The goal is to attract and retain qualified, paid, and volunteer staff for all services and activities. So you're looking at quality of staff and services. Scott's already said this is a big issue in his project, a big issue.
Could be the whole project on that.
Absolutely.
Right there.
It would be more than a whole, as Scott says he could do a whole project just on that. He could do a whole project just on that and would take years.
Yeah.
It would take years. And I have been reflecting over some of the organizations I have worked with in recent years, and almost always in nonprofits that are underfunded, staffing is a concern. Notice that it pays attention to the volunteers as well. Am I correct, Jarrell, in assuming that in your project they plan on using volunteers big time? How do you get people to volunteer when they're already busy and the best people are already busy? How do you get them to stay? So 20 years ago, when I worked with a dozen women in town, actually more than a dozen coming and going over a period of 5 years, we were all volunteers in putting together a mentor program for middle school girls. And I think my assessment is we put together one doggone good mentoring program. But the biggest issue had to do with human resources. How much, even when you're really dedicated, and of the core, probably of core of 6 people, really dedicated, putting in hundreds of hours over the course of several years to develop this really pretty amazing volunteer mentoring program, and being able to have sessions that were exciting as well as enriching, and to recruit mentors, to sustain those mentors so that when they got matched with a 7th grader, a 6th grader, or a 7th grader, that they actually met with that girl on a regular basis, solved problems when there were issues related to purposefulness, and it was all volunteer. And what we found was after 3 and 4 years, some of those core individuals who had helped put it together, their lives changed and they had to step back, or one of the co-directors just got tired. She said it's time for somebody else to take over. How do you get somebody else to take over when there's not an infrastructure of someone or people that are helping to nourish the volunteers? So, yes, one of our models was Big Brothers Big Sisters, but Big Brothers Big Sisters has a core staff. All the mentors are volunteer, but they have a core staff that know how to recruit, train, and sustain the volunteers. So that's it. Attract and retain both paid staff and volunteers. Are your people a strength and a reflection of sound recruitment and retention programs? Do you have a core of people who have that strength, who have that commitment, and also able to sustain it? Is there a system in place within your organization or agency to help volunteers feel so much a part of it that they will stay with the program even when other priorities take over their lives? And also with the staff, does the staff feel valued? Is the staff trained? Is there something built in? Because I can guarantee you in every one of your programs you have staff who are underpaid. What is done to help them continue and stay committed to the agency in the face of underfunding? Okay. Is supervision and performance management carried out well? Is it an issue? For some of you, it's not an issue. I'm seeing Scott saying that's absolutely an issue. Okay. Is your compensation policy competitive enough to attract and retain the people you need? And for most of you, you'd say no. But is it so much an issue that in your project, you need to pay attention to it? Probably for your project, Leah, you would say, no, it may be an issue, but we don't have to worry about that. That's not one of those that I need to. But you're asking yourself that. Okay. And is a proactive professional development orientation part of the performance management? So, is there professional development? I have not seen a lot of professional development since I came to Montana 25 years ago. When we have it available for nonprofits, it is such a treat. And fortunately, we have had some really quality professional development, but every once in a while, the professional development that is offered does not meet the needs of the staff. the less expensive, local kind of professional development often does not meet the needs of the staff. And that may or may not be, I would say for most of you in your projects now, it's not an issue, not a burning issue for your project. It may be for the organization, but not for your project. And just in the last few minutes, organization structure and culture. The goal is to sustain an organizational structure and culture that supports clear lines of accountability and a culture that rewards creativity and new ways of doing things. Some of you have talked about how, David, I'm thinking of you, I've been so impressed that you have approached the public defender's office, they have embraced you, and you've been able to work with it, and that's because of an organizational culture that is a strength. When you see those strengths, hold on to them and build on them. Scott has reported just the opposite, in an organizational culture where because it doesn't reward the creativity and it does not, I even perceive lines of accountability are a little bit iffy sometimes, that's a struggle. So you may have to pay attention to that. The rest of you, I don't think Willie has to worry about that. Yeah. So the questions are internal communications and decision making efficient and effective? How effective is the existing structure, including reporting structure? Can you say you have a high performance culture? You're all working with nonprofits in North Central Montana, the ones of you here in class, you're all working with nonprofits in Montana, where I would guess the emphasis, I'm just getting the sense, the emphasis is on relationships more than high performance, but then again, getting results through relationships is a measure of performance. It's just that you are looking more at the relationships than the bottom line. Okay. Is your organization intentional and successful in managing diversity and developing a welcome and inclusive environment? More likely, that's going to be a high value in your organization than whether or not it's efficient. Am I correct? Yeah. All right. And on, as I said, on Wednesday we'll talk about financial management and the other 6 steps involved in the organizational culture, things for you to think about. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is go over this list. It's in your book, and it's page by page. Go over it, ask yourself that question, and if it jumps out at you, say, whoa, this is an issue, or this is a real strength, note it down, because you will build that into your report. You'll build that into your analysis too, and then your report. Okay, any questions?
Are these posted online?
That is not posted online. What I did was I actually went step by step through your book. So if you go through your book, it's right there. Yeah.
Is this
Chapter 7.
What's
Yeah.
the plan for class next Monday?
Class next Monday is,
We had talked about,
okay, starting next Monday, I am going to be focusing on the drafting of your documents. And so I'm going to be working with individuals. I probably will not tape the session on Monday, and instead I'll be reaching out to each one of you individually. I'd like to meet with you and see where you are. And so I'm going to move it probably to an individual level. I am assuming that, Willie, you're talking about maybe not being here.
Yeah, that's what I was just
Yeah,
trying to see.
yeah. My experience is, we have one class Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
And so that's a time for personalizing, for catching up, and in other classes, maybe a little bit of extra credit. Not this class, because this is, as a 300 level class, it's goal driven, and really goal driven for your project. And so the focus will be helping you with that project.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Leah?
Did you say you were going to put an example of a project on the D2L?
I did not say I would put an example of the project on D2L. And I hesitate to do that because each one of your projects and reports is going to be different. What I am going to put on is a structure for you to follow.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right.